All right, so we're going to start talking about solving two-step equations. I have a worksheet here that I will upload online as well, but if you can't print it out, then you can just go ahead and pause the video, get a piece of paper, and just write these equations down, and then leave some space for your work, and then we'll go ahead and get started. All right, so when you are solving two-step equations, there's exactly two steps that you need to follow. So step one, you are always going to either add or subtract. Okay, so you're always going to add or subtract first, and this is always with the number that does not have a variable next to it. Okay, so you want to add or subtract the number with no variable. Okay, so remember, a variable could be like a, x, z, r, p, whatever the letter is that they give you, that's the variable. So you want to add or subtract the number that has no letter with it, okay? And then once you've done that, on step two, you're either going to multiply or divide. Okay, so step two, you're going to multiply or divide a number, and that's always the number with the variable. Okay, if you need to pause the video, get these notes down. These are super important. These are the steps you should follow every single time. You don't multiply or divide first. You always add or subtract first, and then you multiply or divide if you have to. Okay, so let's start with this equation number one. 2x plus 3 equals 13. So our whole goal is to get x by itself. That's really the whole goal of solving equations. We're trying to get that variable by itself. We want to figure out 2 times what number plus 3 is 13. Well, the super important thing to remember is that an equation is like a balance. You have two sides. It's like a scale. So you're trying to figure out, okay, how can I make this equal to 13 over here? Well, if I have an equation, I want to draw, let me think color just so you can see. I want to draw a line on my equal sign, because that's kind of symbolic of the scale for me. So I'm trying to keep everything even on both sides of that line. And remember, we have step one, so we want to add or subtract. So I want to figure out what number has no variable on the left side, because remember, we're trying to get everything away from this x, so we got to move everything over here to get the x by itself. So we can see that this 3 is a positive 3 because it says plus 3, or if it had no variable or no sign next to it, we'd assume it's positive. So we know this is a positive 3 because it doesn't have a variable. So we're going to do the opposite to get it over to this side. So if it says plus 3, we want to go ahead and subtract 3 on the left side. But remember, whatever you do to the left side, you have to do to the right. So we're going to subtract 3 on the right side. The whole reason that we do this is we're trying to get rid of this number altogether over here. We're trying to zero it out and create a zero pair. I know that positive 3 minus 3 is 0. Okay? So then I'm going to go ahead and just say, well, what's 13 minus 3? Well, I know that's 10. Okay? So we just completed step one. Now what you have to do is bring down this number with the variable. So we have 2x. And now we got rid of the 3, so we don't have that there anymore. We just say equals 10. Okay? So we've just done step one. This was step one. Now we're moving on to step two. Okay? So step two says we're going to multiply or divide. Well, if this is saying 2 times x equals 10, I want to do the opposite of multiplying. So I'm going to be dividing. So we're going to put a little line under both of these, because remember, we still have a scale. We still have our two sides. So I'm going to do this little color again so you can see the difference. Okay, so the number that you're dividing is the number that is right next to the variable. Always, always dividing this number. So I want to divide 2 by 2, and same thing over here, 10 by 2. We're always getting rid of the number that is with the variable. So we know that 2 divided by 2 is just 1. So this really cancels and just becomes 1x. And then I know that 10 divided by 2 is 5. So I have my final answer, x equals 5. And we can check that even, because remember the equation was 2x plus 3 equals 13. Well, I know that x is 5, so what is 2 times 5 plus 3? Well, 2 times 5 is 10, and 10 plus 3 is 13. So this proves that x equals 5. All right, so I'm going to go a little faster. So the next one, I want to draw my line down the equal sign. I want to add or subtract the number without the variable. So I can see that this is a negative 7 because it says minus 7. We assume that it's negative 7. So the opposite of that would be plus 7 on both sides. Negative 7 plus 7 cancels itself out. And 23 plus 7 is 30. Then I go ahead and bring down 5x. So I've got 5x equals 30. So I'm moving on to step 2. I want to get rid of this 5. So it's saying 5 times x. So the opposite of multiplying would be dividing both sides by that 5. Oops, sorry. Already did that line. So 5 divided by 5 is actually just 1x. And 30 divided by 5 is 6. Okay. Once you go ahead and pause the video and do this one on your own, and then I will go back over this at the end. So pause the video for a little bit and we'll go back on over this answer choice at the end of the video. All right, let's move down here. So notice I have this in a little bit out of your usual order, but this equal sign is still there, so I still want to draw my line. And I want to do step 1, which is get rid of the number that has no variable with it. So I have 3 without a variable, so I'm going to get rid of this positive 3. It's positive because it has no sign in front of it, so we assume it's positive. So the opposite of positive 3 is negative 3. So I'm going to do minus 3 on this side and minus 3 on this side. A lot of people do minus 3, but notice you would have 2 minus 3's on the same side of the line. You want to have it on both sides of the line, okay? So 3 minus 3 is 0, and 19 minus 3 is 16. Now I want to bring down this negative 4y equals 16. I'm going to continue with my line because I still have 2 sides. And this is saying negative 4 times y equals positive 16. Well, the opposite of multiplying is dividing. So I'm going to divide both these sides by negative 4. Negative 4 divided by negative 4 is positive 1, which is just positive y. And 16 divided by negative 4. Well, we know 16 divided by 4 is 4. But we have a positive divided by a negative. So if you have 2 different signs, your answer is going to be negative. So 16 divided by 4 is 4. So 16 divided by negative 4 is negative 4. All right, I want you to do this one on your own, and then I'm going to move on to this last problem over here. Okay, so we have negative 4 minus 6p equals negative 22. I'm going to draw my line down the equal sign. I want to get rid of the number that has no variable. So this negative 4 is by itself. The opposite of negative 4 is positive 4. So we want to do plus 4 over here. And then on the other side, I want to do the same, plus 4. Well, negative 4 plus 4 is 0, so that cancels out. But negative 22 plus 4 is not 26. Negative 22 plus 4, you're actually, because you have different signs, you're actually subtracting. So 22 minus 4 is 18, but it would be negative 18 because this 22 is a bigger number. So you have 18 negatives left over after you add 4 positives. Then I want to bring down this negative 6p equals negative 18. So this is saying negative 6 times whatever p is equals negative 18. Well, I want to go ahead and just divide, because that's the opposite of multiplying, by negative 6 on both sides. Well, negative 6 divided by negative 6 is just a 1, just positive p, 1p. And then 18 divided by 6 we know is 3, but since we have a negative divided by a negative, like I tell my students, if you hate to hate, that makes you a lover or a positive. So negative 18 divided by negative 6, and so the same sign, your answer is always going to be a positive. So p is positive 3. And let's go ahead and go over these 2 problems that you should have done on your own. I'm just going to give you the answer so you can check yourself. All right, so 7m minus 17 equals 60. So you should have added 17 to both sides. You would have gotten 7m equals 77. Then you divide by 7 on both sides, and you get m is 11. Let's go ahead and check this one in the middle on the bottom. Okay, so this one was a little flipped around, but it's still the same process. You're still getting rid of the number over here without the variable. So we would have subtracted 3 on both sides. 3 minus 3 is 0. 18 minus 3 is 15. So you brought down 5r. So 15 equals 5 times whatever r is. Well, we want to divide by 5 to get rid of this 5. So both sides divided by 5, that just becomes 1r. And 15 divided by 5 is 3. So r equals 3. Okay? So using these practice problems, I hope that y'all kind of got some understanding of how to solve two-step equations. There's additional resources on your files. So if you are confused by this, you can keep going, keep looking at different videos, and then get going with your assignments. Good luck, guys.